Afternoon time is 6 minutes after 1 o'clock. Today is Tuesday, the second day of April in the year 2025. I'm Lennox Linton. Matt Peltier is off this afternoon taking care of some important matters, and I'll be here until 3 or 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Yeah, we have we may have some extra time this afternoon if you want it, if you like it. We can do some extra time. We could do some overtime this afternoon, depending on how interested the subjects of discussion are, and depending on your, whether you're with us or not. All right. So nice to be with you. Good afternoon, Q family. Good afternoon to the Dominica family at home and abroad. It's always a pleasure to be with you, trying our best to take care of the nation's business. Welcome, one and all.
Treat yourself to the aroma of beef calming vanilla air freshener. Unwind with the luxurious scent of beef. for a happy, healthy home.
Or you where in Roseau, Kimashadis, you can just walk in and order all your chicken parts wholesale and even enjoy retail. It's at AC Shillingford. All chicken parts available that you can afford. Fresh breast. And you know breast is best. Shillingford wings have muscle. After you eat it, you can fly. As for Shillingford chicken drumsticks, even swinging stars just order drumsticks from Shillingford. And for those of you who love Risapul, AC Shillingford keeps your belly full. Buy your chicken wholesale at AC Shillingford. From wings to thighs to drums to breasts to backs to necks, it's available. It's always available and it's affordable. Plus, you've got pork feet, ham and turkey, bull foot, chicken nuggets, pepperoni, all those right seasonings to make your kitchen keep on ticking. Buy your wholesale chicken at AC Shillingford. When you think of chicken, think of AC Shillingford. Always fresh.
Andan yon la te, ki ka kontrole pa zafè kompita. Se relasyon ek komunikasyon ki ka determine la vi nou, an tan ki ka veni. An manya nou ka apwan, fè travay ek asosye ek yon alot. Me ki sa ki ka proteje se doa sa la? Se bil komunikasyon elektronik la, ebe isi bila ka proteje. Isi bila ka asiwe se doa ankon, pli meye kalite servis, informasyon ki ka garanti sigwe ek sécurité. Support pour service général ek jwen admission pour service la. Ek tout plet kay trouve protection par yon tribunal ki kay résolé tout dispute. Ça c'est protection pour consommateur. Ici bila kay aussi assurer yon environnement compétition pour compagnie communication électronique la, ça pénétrer la place la. L'année plusieurs l'autre bénéfice di bill ici ya. Ek tel kapave un chemin de bonne foi. Sécurité et ka embrasser société digitale. Ça veut dire, plus moun qui ka servi computer pour tout pays nous, qui a agrément. Et tel et c'est NTRC a digitally ka transformer placement nous.
The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
Eastern Trading Limited massive Easter sale is now on, starting today until April 25th, 2025. 15% discount on all upholstery furniture, selected desks, and world-famous Ronix power tools. 15% discount on all television sets. 15% discount on 5, 10, and 15-year rum. 1 liter Pure Heaven 100% apple juice, $249.95. Joel margarine, 15 kilograms, 33 pounds, that is, now only $75. 1 liter Pure Heaven tropical drink, only $6.95. And tomato soup, now only $3.95. And check in store for many other special prices. Eastar Trading Limited, we are making a difference for you.
Step aside for the game changer. The emperor, the conqueror, the champion, the lion is here.
Afternoon time 1:14. This is Q95 on April 2nd, 2025. We thank you very much for joining us. All right. The police crackdown on citizens of Dominica following the protest action of the 19th of March, 2025 continues. And I tell you this afternoon, first up, that so far 19 people have been arrested and charged with the offense of unlawful assembly. Those 19 persons, 3 ladies in the mix: Rosie Felix, Clementina Mitchell, Paula Celestine. And there's Bernard Moreau, John Baptiste Charles, Samuel Durand, Imran Joseph, Sorrento Durand, Siri Defoe, Michael Wright, Crispin Piper, Moses Prosper, Alvin James, Ed John Baptiste, Selwyn Powell, Matson Roll, Johnson Boston, Hector John, and Danny Lugay. Again, the 19 persons arrested and charged by the police so far for unlawful assembly with respect to the protest on the 19th of March, 2025. Rosie Felix, Clementina Mitchell, Paula Celestin, Bernard Morrow, John Baptist Charles, Samuel Durand, Imran Joseph, Sorrento Durand, Siri Defoe, Michael Wright, Crispin Piper, Moses Prosper, Alvin James, Ed John Baptiste, Selwyn Powell, Matson Roll, Johnson Boston, Hector John, and Daniel Lugay. Some of them were released on bail in the amount of $25,000. One person in her own recognizance. Others were released on bail in the amount of $30,000, each with one surety. And some of them had very onerous bail conditions applied to their release. Hector John and others, where the others had no conditions attached to it. They had no bail conditions. So in terms of the conditions that were applied with respect to the bail of Hector John and others, we're talking about restriction on travel. And their passports, travel documents had to be surrendered to the court, and they couldn't travel out of the country without permission of the court. And they have to report weekly to police station that is closest to them. And they are banned from discussing this matter on the media or in public. They're also banned from attending public gatherings of a political nature, or participating in public gatherings of a political nature, which some argue, and I strongly believe, is an infringement of the constitutional rights of these citizens of Dominica who, under the Constitution as well, are given the benefit of the presumption of being innocent until they are proven guilty. They have not been proven guilty of any unlawful assembly. All right. And I told you a while ago that the unlawful assembly charge is under the Riot Act, Chapter 1002. It's December 30th, 1897 Act, the Riot Act. And the section in question is Section 4, under which the 19 persons are being charged and are being prosecuted for unlawful assembly. What does Section 4 of the Riot Act provide? You may have heard it already. For the purpose of this afternoon's discussion, I will read it again. Section 4. The sidebar says, unlawful assembly after proclamation. Where any persons to the number of 12 or more, being unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously assembled together to the disturbance of the public peace, and being required or commanded by any magistrate or by any justice of the peace or the senior police officer in the area, by proclamation to be made in the name of the president in the form hereinafter directed, to disperse themselves and peaceably to depart to their homes or to their lawful business, shall to the number of 12 or more, notwithstanding the proclamation so made, unlawfully, riotously, and tumultuously remain or continue together for the space of 1 hour or more, after the request or command made by the proclamation, then all persons so remaining or continuing together to the number of 12 or more after the request or command was made by the proclamation is liable to imprisonment for 5 years. All right, so based on this straight, ordinary, common sense understanding of what is provided here, it seems that if you're going to be charged for unlawful assembly, you would have the police would have evidence that sometime after the proclamation was made, 1 hour after the proclamation was made, you were riotously and tumultuously remaining or continuing together for the space of 1 hour or more after the request or command made by the proclamation. Okay. So after the request made by the proclamation that you should disperse and go to your lawful business or go to your homes, there is a period of 1 hour that must elapse before you can be charged or accused or taken up for unlawful assembly. I don't know which of the 19 persons were still around after the order was issued or the proclamation was made by the senior police officer. I understand that senior police officer on the ground there is now the acting commissioner of the deputy commissioner of police or the assistant commissioner of police, Mr. JJ, that's his name, Mr. JJ, the one who commanded the forces to advance on that day. All right. So proclamation made of unlawful, riotous, tumultuous assembly. 1 hour after that, if you're still so assembled, then you will be liable to imprisonment for 5 years. In other words, you would have 1 hour later, sometime an hour or more after, you're still there, you would be liable to imprisonment for 5 years, having committed the crime of unlawful assembly. All right, so that's what is before us. That's what was before us. As a result of an assembly on the 19th of March, into which the police threw stones, and the police were seen assaulting people. One man in particular received a hard slap. He fell to the ground, passed out. Now, do you hear anything at all, people of Dominica, about action to be taken against any of the police officers responsible for harming, hurting persons who were involved in participating in the assembly? And no one says we do not have a right to assemble in Dominica. Everybody knows that. Everybody agrees with that. And we also agree that if an assembly becomes rowdy or out of control, then the police can intervene because they have a responsibility to protect life and property. All right. But consider that the persons who left their homes to protest with the right to do so and stood up, assembled with their brothers and sisters, are now in court, targeted by the police in this brutal crackdown. And for the last week or so or two, this is now, well, over the past 2 weeks, every day or every other day or so, you hear about somebody that the police have targeted, and you hear about somebody who is going into police custody, who has been taken into custody, and there have been these various appearances before the court and so on. All of that unnecessary oppression, brutalization, unnecessary persecution of people, because the police in this country have claimed the right to teach the people of Dominica who is in charge and to put them under heavy manners every time that they believe the people have stepped out of line, or they're talking about protests, or they want to have public meetings, or they want to have demonstrations, which happens all over the world. All of a sudden in Dominica, it's become an offense. It's become something that the law enforcement must come all guns blazing at you to make sure that you know who is the boss. Now, I'm asking the question this afternoon, why is all of that necessary? Why is any of that necessary? In terms of the 19th of March, the bills were passed. You would expect that the the government, the ruling party, would be happy. The bills were passed. They boast of unanimous vote on the registration of electors bill. The other two were passed. What is the problem? The police did their work to what they felt was their work to protect the parliament from the parliament compound, from people who would have loved to get closer to their parliament and to let the legislators inside there hear their voices of dissatisfaction and dissent with certain provisions and the failure to include certain provisions for free and fair elections in the bills that were before the House. It's their right to do. And for that, we have a 2-week crackdown on those who participated. Somebody must tell me, somebody must explain to me, how is that justifiable? How is it justifiable in a democratic society? How is any of that? How is that police crackdown justifiable in a democratic society? And why is it we are sitting down, all of us sitting down, watching it happen, watching the injustice, watching the brutality, watching the inconvenience being visited on families across Dominica as a result of persons participating in an assembly and police misbehaving themselves and turning the assembly into something that it was not supposed to be? That was their design. I want to remind you this afternoon, the police are the ones who, with the benefit of the people's money, have been trained in crowd control. Those are the individuals among us who are paid to deal with those situations. They have riot gear purchased by the people of Dominica. They have arms and ammunition purchased by the people of Dominica. They had all of those available to them to make sure the crowd was controlled, there was no loss of life. And they also paid and trained to exercise restraint in those circumstances. There was no restraint from the police. They just went after people and they continued to go after people. Why? Because they believe they're doing it for the favor of their political masters, who are sitting down watching it happen. And some of them are saying, well, no, it's not me. The police are doing their work. What work? What work? You mean to tell me 19 people must now be prosecuted in the court, persecuted in the court for what happened on Wednesday the 19th? Really? And we just sit down and we watch it. And life goes on. Wow, Dominica. Wow. $130.
Hello.
Someone on the telephone, good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Lincoln. There was so much of us there. A number of us need to go by the police station now and tell them, well, all of us there, arrest all of us one time, Mr. Lincoln. because that wickedness that happened in this Arlington, we cannot wait for them people to fear in us. They put in fear in us so they can do their campaigning around the island. So they think everybody will stay quiet. Mr. Linton, I don't know what's wrong with us now. All heads should be at one. We all that was there should have all our heads together and doing what we have to do. We should not allow the police and them to put fear in us because we were protesting and we have right to protest. We were standing for our right. So I don't see why we have to be afraid now of the police and them. Mr. Linton, we need to stand up with everybody. All a portion of us out there, 100, 2 of us, 100 of us, let's go and tell them, look, all of us was there. It shouldn't be one individual, that individual. They shouldn't pick and choose. They should just hold everybody. Have a good afternoon, sir.
Have a good afternoon yourself, and thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. It's 1:31. The number's here, 449-3095, 449-3096, 449-3097, and 616-4257. This is Q9 at 5, Talk on the Block. Good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon. Whoa. What's going on here? You're good? Hello? No, that person changed his mind. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Linton.
Mr. Tony Caesar, how are you?
And I didn't know about I'm bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on in our country, I'm bleeding. And I called because I heard a caller saying something I've been saying, All those people, everyone who participated in the peaceful protest, all of them go to the police station. And those of us who are calling like me and those in the diaspora that they contributing a little dollar, let's sacrifice. Let all of us go because they will show it part of it too. Let's go and all of us will be arrested. Are you ready for that? I'm asking whether if they're ready, let me know I'll come because I call in the radio all the time. For a matter of fact, I already on the arrest list, a false arrest list. So I'm not afraid. I am a Dominican. Mm-hmm. So when the caller said that, it triggers me to call again, Mr. Linton. Everybody that participated in the protest, let's go to the police station in the street. Let's go and tell them arrest every one of us. That's it. Because why they're doing that is because the Dominica is a peaceful place. They cannot do that in Jamaica. They cannot do that in Trinidad. They cannot do that in Haiti. So I already called on the Prime Minister and the government, the police to stop that. They're not stopping. All of us, let's go and let them arrest all of us. Let them put all of us in a cell. Thank you, Mr. Linton.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon, Honorable President Sir Lennox Linton.
Good afternoon, Mali.
When I sit down and I think, my brother, I'm not there to insult, to attack anybody. I say it's wickedness, and they're overdoing it now, my brother. If you want peace in the country, why you have to do this thing to arrest people, women that talking for their right? You shackling them. These women never do anything bad. They don't have no dirty record in the police station, and you shackling them. You try to stretch your olive branch to the opposition leader and the president. Olive branch for peace. My brother, where is the peace in the country? There is no peace. We need peace, unity, and togetherness in the country. And I'm calling on the Prime Minister, Mr. Blackmore, and the acting chief, free your people, free my people. Too much bondage, too much suffering, too much hardship, too much wickedness in the country. Oh, Milado, I am so upset. All my skin shivering to say they're picking up, and they're picking up people one behind the other. Where Dominica going? What is that? My brother, and let me say hats off to Mr. Sheridan Gregoire for last night. Good program, good show, and all the lawyers who spoke and the callers like Honorable Tyrone Blessing and others. Oh, it was a bomb. My brother, take care of yourself.
All right.
Know where you
Thank
eating,
you.
know where you drinking. Look over your shoulder. Don't pick up anybody in your transport. No sukuya, no lugau, no vampire. Take care of yourself. They're trying to take hold of Pastor Rodney and Thompson Fountain. That thing is wickedness, boy. Wickedness. So cool.
All right, that was Marlene in her own inimitable style. 139, good afternoon. 136, sorry, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
All you Dominicans, all you not seeing what's going on in Dominica. Kerry don't want to come out in power because he know if he come out in power, what is there for him, and he don't want that to happen. And he will do everything in his power to stay in power. And all you Dominicans, I don't know what's wrong with Dominicans. What's wrong with Dominicans? Is either he have a spell on them or I don't know. Dominicans sleeping. What's wrong with them? When they're back, when they cannot even come out in front of their house, by the time they want to react, it might be too late. Because Skerrit is building some demons in Dominica, and that's going to just cripple Dominica. And all of us, our country will just go by the Chinese or whoever controlling. And Skerrit now is a full-time dictator now. He's the full-time dictator, and he knows what's happening to dictators, so he don't want to come out in power. Immediately the police, they just idiots. They don't know nothing what's going on. And all you have to take a stand. Why you think? I listened to him on Radio Grenada, I think, and he said Thompson Funkin is a soft man. And you is the real man. He's supposed to be the United the United
Workers' Party,
UWPA, the leader. You're supposed to be the leader. You're the real man. He's scared of you.
That's not for him to decide.
He know that. He's scared of you.
That's not for him to decide. Yeah, okay. But
he says, Thompson Fountain to soft. Thompson Fountain to put in no pressure, nothing. When you was leader, you are keeping up the pressure. Fountain, we don't even hear in Thompson Fountain.
No, well, I don't know why you're not hearing Thompson Fountain, because he has been since this March the 19th.
No, he has to talk.
Yes,
he has to show the people.
Been
very, he has to show the people something.
Yeah, good. All right.
But Lennox, keep on the pressure. Don't worry. Yeah. The time coming. The time is coming. I see in division. The time is coming.
Thanks.
Where, as Pastor Rodney say, somebody will be bringing banana for him in the prison, or if he do dead, because that's what does happen to the people. Either you dead or you go to prison. But hold this train, hold strong. We there with you. Don't worry. I'll be joining you soon. Don't worry. I'll be joining you.
Thank you.
Fight the fight.
Thank you.
If he's still there.
Thank you. All right. Good afternoon. More phone calls. This is the Talk on the Block for today. It's Wednesday, the 2nd of April in the year 2025. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon.
When other Dominica policemen is going to go to Haiti to solve problems in Haiti and to use their tear gas, a bunch of cowards.
Okay.
When are they going to
help? You want them to help in Haiti? You want them to go help in Haiti, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I want them to come. I want them to come back in Dominica in boxes. They're so bad. I want to know when are they going to arrest Skerrit for stealing passport money and for allowing his son, who was involved in an accident where somebody lost their life. When are they going to arrest Skerrit and his son for that? They're a bunch of hooligans in the police force.
1:43. This is the afternoon time, and Talk on the Block for today. The phone lines are busy. Sorry. This one. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Yes, good afternoon.
Well, boy, this time in the issue, I don't make them kind of thing happening. The same region, you had Perry Charles. You had Ted Charles. Okay? You had Lucy Douglas. You had Patrick John. Patrick John had a coup. He took prison for that. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, Perry show love. Lucy show more love. And I never see them kind of thing happening. Richard was there. Them thing was never happening. Workers' Party was there. All they were showing the love for people, unity, respect for people. You know what I mean? And all they was doing, making the place move forward, and everybody making $1 for themselves, for themselves and their family. That's all the man was doing. You know? Anything that go wrong, they say the man go in parliament, they discuss issue and what have you, give one another fire. You know what I mean? and then it come bounce blast together.
Mm-hmm.
No problem.
Mm-hmm.
And this time around, you having one man and Blackmore just fighting among the nation. People hate each other for politics. You know, nobody come and demonstrate nothing. Man, that's an evil system, brother man. When you be trying to seek and say, well, you open a factory for somebody, for some people, about 500 people or 5,000 people get a job. That I want to hear. Let people come in and bring some good reports and give me some good views about Dominica. And then when they say certain things, come and arrest them for demonstrating. Man, that's an evil system, brother man. And if you have to continue with people like that in the nation, you're going to have some serious problem, boy. But anything you do, anytime you see you doing people wickedness like that, poor people wickedness like that, and you come back and hunt you down for the rest of your life, brother man. Because we're not going nothing.
Yep.
You're not going nothing, brother man. All of us have to die and leave everything and go, no matter what you have, brother man. That evil system must stop. If you don't stop that, brother, they're going nowhere in Dominica.
Yep.
And this is what happened in Dominica, boy. The police don't say no law for unity and respect for the nation. They're trying to support one man. And black nonsense and magic and cushion you're doing there. But everything just for time, brother man. Go down on things, not them. You say? Not them. Go down on things.
Indeed.
God bless Dominica, brother.
Thank you. God bless our Dominica. And nothing, I keep repeating, nothing that the police is doing in this crackdown on citizens who participated in the assembly of the 19th of March 2025 is reasonably justifiable in any democratic society. It is, the more you look at it, the more you see wickedness, the more you see evil. And it has to stop. Who is going to stop it? Good afternoon.
Mr. Linton.
Good afternoon, sir.
Thanks for taking my call again. I did make a request to Matt Peltier. I don't believe, I'm subject to correction, but I don't believe that my request was granted. Now, I want to make that request to you, but before I make that request, let me ask you. The false arrest going on in Dominica right now, the security minister is not involved in that. He's not part of it.
Well, so then the number of people who believe he's directing it.
So, but Mr. Linton, I'm now requesting that the clip of Mr. Ostry, why can't it be continuously played at least every 10 minutes? Play that, let the world hear what is going on. The real arrest that should take place. It did not. Play this clip for me, please. At least for me, play it now. I request of you, please.
I'll try to see if I find it. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Peace and blessings, my brother. How are you?
Peace and blessings to you. All is well. Thanks. God bless.
Yes. No, I sit back and I've listened, I've watched, and it's amazing because that day of 3/19, and if you look at the clouds that morning and how gray the sky was on that day, I would have been in that area. And what is really bothering me is to the precedent that is being stated here in Dominica now. To say that the minute that, as I put partisan government aside, to say that the minute you have an objection to something that is occurring, and as your right in a democratic country to stand up and say, I do not agree, and that's what you're saying, I do not agree with what is being done, so I'm coming out to speak out against what I do not agree with. At no time did I see any kind of riotous behaviors coming from the people who were there. And speaking from a very objective, professional person, to see when they're using this act of,
1897, December 1897.
To bring up this law all of a sudden, like we're back in slavery days, and like they say, like the master would be using against their people, to bring that law into effect in order to arrest mothers, grandmothers, families who were there just merely to say, I did not or I do not agree with something. No, they're using this act, and I've listened to all the different aspects of it, to say that those people were being violent. I did not see anyone being violent, but the violence I saw was the police against this individual. When I continuously look at that slap that this man got to the ground, I did not see him fighting the police or even in the vicinity of where the police was. And for the police to smack a man like that, it's like, it's not even funny, but remember when the Will Smith, occurred on the Grammys and he slapped the guy?
Well, yes.
It's like, that's what you see. And you're hearing everyone is crickets, crickets, crickets about it. That could have been your father, your brother, your uncle. And it doesn't matter what color you represent, blue or red, to see a police slap your family member to the ground. What do you expect people to just be quiet? And there's so many people in Dominica, because of the position they hold, are just quiet and not saying anything. And it's like, as an individual, Dominica is my island. And coming back to Dominica, you know what people say? Oh, you need to be quiet because you have your business. And if you start speaking out against certain things, you're not going to get the contracts or the jobs or whatever. And I'm like, it's a shame that people have to think that way in order what is right and what is wrong. They could never give me a position in there. I will sell oranges by the street. That's okay. But the matter of right and wrong, and you have to speak up, because today, like Matt played that poem earlier with the German, and they say when they come for this one,
Martin Niemöller.
When they come for that. Exactly. Because there's going to come a day where they will come for you. The one that
there'll be nobody left to speak for
and
you.
there will be no one left to speak for you. Because when they say when the rain falls, it doesn't fall on one man's house. Because at some point, you that are in your cushy position, something will occur. And it could be maybe not your fault, and you're going to need someone to stand with you. We have hurricanes here. A hurricane will happen. You're in Rosa, your family are in Portsmouth, but you want to call and tell your neighbor, hey, look out for my family. And you know what they say? Say our business when they will turn their head.
Yeah.
They may, remembering what occurred. So they said, my granny would say, pas manger l'ombilier. Do not eat and forget what you ate, because it may come back to you. And I want people to really think about that. Think about the position you are taking. Think about burying your head in the sand. Think about being silent to injustice. And that's what it is. It is injustice. I am a criminal justice major. I graduated top in my class. I know all the laws in reference to criminal justice. But the police have a right to come and to protect both sides, not one side, and to create peace.
Right.
Anyway, I just wanted to call and just, because every day when I listen to the people that are being arrested, it is more and more upsetting.
Yeah.
Those are people, because the majority of the people at that protest, 50, 60, 70, 80-year-olds. That now the postpartum stress they're going to be going through because of that. Sometimes people who were never arrested in their life or even spitting on the ground, and now they're in a prison, sleeping on the floor, on the hard floor with their shoes, or women who are getting sick. You should be ashamed of
In the meantime, while that is happening, nobody hears anything about the police officer who was seen throwing stones into the crowd of persons assembled.
Right, it's like mum's the word, crickets. Nobody's saying anything.
And then nobody's saying anything about the police officer who slapped that innocent man to the ground, knocked him out cold.
Yes.
Anywhere else in the civilized world, those police officers would be on suspension pending
on administrative leave, on suspension,
pending investigation into something, and they would end up being charged for something. In Dominica, nothing. They actually they're in line now for rewards. They will be rewarded well for the brutality against the people.
And that's why, you know what, though I came back to my island to work and to bring back all my qualifications here in Dominica to make a difference in Dominica. And it almost makes me ashamed. When they say we're giving Dominica a bad name, it almost makes me ashamed to be Dominican, to say, when my people are coming, that's what's happening in your island, and you want to move there?
Yeah.
For that, you're right. You can't even say I disagree with something. Why do you want to move there?
Amazing.
You want me to promote Dominica as someone who's in the wellness business, I'm going to promote Dominica and people are going to come to invest, knowing that, well, you really can't speak your mind, because if you speak your mind too loudly, they may come looking for you.
They will make sure they make you unwell.
Yes. I'm like, they probably have blacklisted me already because I've gone to all the offices. No one has given me a call back.
Yeah.
They talk about community service, community policing. I went to that office and I speak to them, here are my qualifications, and saying how we should deal with the community, how we should deal with between police and the community. Oh, no one have ever given me a call back. I'm not coming asking you for a handout. I'm coming with all my qualifications. All my qualifications. And if you can take my qualifications and compare it to some of these officers who've been there 30, how many years? They've never got any kind of training. They just grandfathered in and sit there. And now you're there just going harassing people, arresting people. And they're great officers, because I know of many officers in that police force who don't have that kind of mindset. But there's some others. There's always a few spoiled apples that spoil. And they have, like in New York, they have the blue code. They have the code where everyone's like, well, he's a fellow police officer. I'm not going to say anything. Because then if you say anything, then they're going to come after you.
Yeah.
You're the whistleblower, you're that. But there comes a time in every human being life where you have to stand up for what is right and what is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's just period. There's a human right. And human rights surpass every other right. As a human right to exist, okay, there's a human right. And you cannot muffle people. You cannot muzzle people. You cannot, put gag orders on people and say, you cannot speak your mind. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day yourself. It's 1:52. That's the afternoon time. And we thank you very much for joining us here. While this is going on, the bills that were passed in the parliament have been assented to by the president and will be gazetted if they have not been gazetted yet any moment now. So the law is going into effect. What was debated and passed in the parliament 2 weeks ago is the law of the land. And the ruling party is busy doing its thing, getting ready, going around the country, looking to see who they need to give ID cards, etc., or buy this for, or buy the next for, because it seems an election is on the horizon. We're going to talk about that this afternoon. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Hey, Mr. Lincoln, blessings to you, sir.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I give him thanks. How is family?
Family is blessed. Thank you very much.
Blessings. Mr. Lincoln, you see me, I am rough around the edges. And I have a thing saying, I have no great burning desire to be loved, no addictive urges to be hated, or whatever it goes. But they're both happening simultaneously, the lovers and the haters, and I give thanks. It's all about balance. My beloved brother, I'm watching what is happening in Dominica, and I am pissed off, Mr. Lincoln, and I'm vexed with myself sometimes because I'm checking these politicians there, they need a dose of their own medicine, and the police officers. And I agree. I can remember a guy was saying, not to tell me nothing about good police officers in Dominica. Sorry, my apologies. Good police officers in Dominica. Even in hell have good people. Maybe I'm one of them. Mr. Lincoln, I'm just saying, you see that level of abuse, you see that level of intimidation, that level of brutality. I watched. Mr. Lincoln, if you watch that video, well, that man had an object in his hand. It must be a little handgun.
Mm-hmm.
Because he switched from the right to the left so quickly in a kind of secretive or subtle way for him not to be detected that he had an object in his hand. A slap can knock down a man cold like that, my brother. And I am saying, but if one of all you hit me, I end and all you end too. It's the end of me and it's the end of all you. What is happening in Dominica, my brethren? We need a more radical and militant approach towards that. You're being terrorized, you terrorize the terrorizers as well. All the talking, the other thing saying, Doing the same thing over and over is one of the definitions of insanity, of madness. And even on that Wednesday, I said, but Monday and Tuesday was the perfect time, the night. And you shut down all the arteries that supply in the heart with blood, and there will be no damn sitting of parliament. And I'm just saying, my brother, me myself, I can't wait for you to arrest me. I want all you to arrest me. I did not come to Roseau because I heard one thing and I get pissed off, and the other thing, I was in pain, but I could just take 4 Valiums. It's 2, not Valiums, Cocodo Mall or whatever, not Valium. I can overdose when I go in and commit what I mean. Let me hush my mouth. Mr. Linton, do you want to allow me to transit into Delbert Paris? Would you allow me?
Feel free, my brother. This is this is the talk show, and yes, we're discussing all matters related to March 19th. So whatever you want to talk about.
Yeah, Mr. Linton, I find sometimes I really get pissed off, and I have a good reason. I can clearly see the justification for my reason for not having a political party or belonging or membership or anything. I find Delbert Paris was rude, disrespectful, and arrogant. I saw this number, call him 3 times, never answered, message him, never answered. There maybe there's a justified reason for not giving the people prior information about your decision. But after for you to come and talk about we should not be majoring in minor, based on the context, the setting, and the framework in Parliament in which you do what you did, and for you to come out and talk about, even you, Mr. Linton, I noticed in your delivery, I see gaslighting. Am I not to believe what I conclude? That was a level of treachery. That was a level of disrespect. That was a level of what? Come on, arrogance for the brother to come there and did what he do. And then you have people, look, man, I said it, and I come in defense of Delbert Paris, saying, maybe he know what we don't know. That's why I wanted to engage him. He's educated, I am not. Maybe he would be able to enlighten me why he did what he did. But the brother never answered my call. And I checked, I'm nobody and uneducated and things. So I was trying to be enlightened. But when I heard you, to me, you added insult to injury. With
what?
No, the utterances, I have your recording there, your audio, and I listen to it over and over, and I'm saying...
Yeah, hold on. You listened to it over and over. So what specifically did you find insultive or rude or gaslighting?
The gaslighting, in a sense, there is nothing to it. He's not a politician of convenience. He's a leader of independence.
Principle.
I'm saying, Mr. Linton,
principle.
What did you say?
Principle. I said he's not a politician of convenience. He's a leader of principle. I said that.
Yeah, principle. Principle. That's what I'm saying. So, based on our expectations, Mr. Linton, as the followers of a political party, if the man feels he's so independent, because he really is an independent man, but representing UWP, why even after the fact not come and try to just come and nullify, pacify by saying, sorry, that is a political strategy. That is why we did. You come in and talk about majoring in minor. What is so minor about what you did? And people are being arrested and brutalized, not just for electoral reform. I understand that. We have been fighting for over 20-something years, 19 years. So if you deliberately drop a ball, just tell us, you will not understand. Say something of humility rather than come with that arrogance talking about majoring in minor. I wanted to say that, and I hope Delbert Paris can put something together and come and make sense of his actions. Thanks for your time, sir.
All right, thank you very much indeed. More phone calls. It is 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sir Lennox Linton.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mr. Laku Settler. How you doing, bro? How you doing, bro?
I want to read the Bible of the Constitution of Dominica because I'm assuming that if you're in a position of authority, political authority, or judicial, in the judiciary, such as you are a magistrate, something, at least, and Attorney General, the DPP, at least you will have some sort of sense that the Constitution is what guides your every action, every decision, with respect to managing the country, with respect to treating the citizens of the country, with a politician, the Prime Minister, a policeman. Every person in such a position should be familiar with the Constitution of Dominica. And I don't want to revisit it. I mean, it's an old story. It says, whereas, I'm looking at the preamble, the people of Dominica, and I'm saying here, it says here, have affirmed that the Commonwealth of Dominica is founded upon the principles that acknowledge the supremacy of God, faith in the fundamental human rights and freedoms. And I pause here. And also, D, in the preamble, recognize that men and institutions remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. And the Constitution, I'm talking the rule of law. Section 117, 116, before 117, Dominica shall be a sovereign democratic republic. I emphasize that. And 117, that Earl Williams so insightfully quoted last evening, this Constitution is the supreme law. So remember it says that Dominica recognizes that men and women remain free only when freedom is founded upon respect for moral and spiritual values and the rule of law. And it says the Constitution in 117 is the supreme law of Dominica and subject to the provisions of this Constitution if any other law. So it acknowledges, we have to acknowledge, that the Constitution is law. If you are law enforcement, if you are Attorney General, DPP, if you are magistrate, you deal with law. The Constitution is the supreme law, and if any other law is inconsistent with the Constitution, that Constitution, the supreme law, shall prevail. And the other law, 1877, 1677, 2025, whatever law that is, shall to the extent of its inconsistency, is void. So what I'm trying to process and wrap my mind and my brain and my senses around is how can, first of all, policemen who are custodians of the law, a politician who takes a pledge to uphold the law and the Constitution, the DPP, the Attorney General, who take pledges and oaths to uphold the law and the Constitution, and a magistrate who is adjudicating. How can, I'm trying to process, how can a person at that level, I mean, every citizen has a right to follow the law, but you're adjudicating, you're making judgment on people, sending them to jail, you're making them, charging them fines, and you do not read the Constitution to say, well, hey, I cannot administer or inflict adverse, unlawful, unconstitutional conditions on citizens. And Earl explained it well last night. The Constitution does not give any magistrate the right to violate the Constitution in imposing bail conditions. And I'm trying to understand how comes a magistrate doesn't understand that. So there are lots of questions I want to ask. Is he really a magistrate? Is he really paying attention to the rule of law? So I'm not
at the point of bail. At the point of bail as well, there is a constitutionally provided presumption of innocence until proven guilty. You know, you have that benefit, a constitutional benefit of being presumed to be innocent until you are proven guilty.
Well, we all know that because in the John Lehrer matter, but all the attorneys who, some of them on the side of the government were arguing, that's what all reasonable attorneys will argue. A magistrate himself. You cannot treat a person on bail as if he has been convicted of the crime. You cannot treat them, giving them bail as if they've been convicted of the crime. And for a magistrate not to understand this important tenet of law and judicial things, it's something I cannot wrap my mind around. And I'm wondering whether there are motives, that's what it's obviously to do, beyond the magistracy and the decisions that you make that are causing a magistrate to make these unconstitutional, I'm not going to quote it, decisions dealing with people who have not been convicted of a crime. And that's just the first stage. If he finds them guilty, they have a right to appeal, and the matter is not settled. So why treat the Dominicans, and you treat a politician who's supposed to be a person on stage representing people, you tell them they cannot assemble, which is as all the wise attorneys and other things. No, it's a fundamental right according to the given by the Constitution. No law can violate that. Any law that violates that is void. So that's my concern question this afternoon. That a magistrate has difficulty following the Constitution. A policeman has difficulty. The Attorney General, the DPP, they all, and the police, the Prime Minister, and another minister from Maho, who's not elected by anybody, who says clarity is God, that they have great difficulty and they're so arrogant that they rot in hell. Thank you, Brother Leonard, for taking my call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Laku Setlang. 2:06 is the afternoon time. How are you doing?
Yeah, good afternoon, brother. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah. Brother Arundel, you know, I hear you, and you pretty much songed on this. The only thing is, this process of arresting people and setting these bail conditions is of a deeper engineering than just basic law. You know what I mean? This is the Lawrences at their best. And I am happy that, you know, a good cadre of members in the legal profession have decided to step forward, because what has been happening is we've been fighting a war against an intellectual brain that is invisible. It's invisible. A legal, intellectual level that is invisible, and we have not paid attention to that. And, you know, these policemen aren't just acting. They aren't just acting. They're on instructions. Their methods are Chinese trained. There's no, all this is about breaking a resistance. It's not, it has nothing to do with the law. And I think all the conditions are there for us to injunct against it. I think we should put a massive effort towards that intent and get this legal capital to develop an argument that we fight this, because it is unjust. It's unjust. Forget about the political process. Just on human rights, it's unjust. So I hope we use that case and use it quickly, because we can change a lot of things if we address it. Yeah.
All right, 2:08. More phone calls. Good afternoon.
Hey, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a special topic because I get to be here.
Hello?
I don't know if it's any special topic here on this afternoon. We know the difficulty with the station, but anyhow, let me just give me a little excuse quickly. I was listening to them and I know some of them.
Yeah, your line is the service where you are seems to be unstable. You're coming in and going out.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
You hear me now?
Yeah, I'm hearing you a little better.
Okay, yeah, I was saying last night remind me about Dominica, lot of smart and educated people. One of my teachers, Earl Williams, you know. And I just train a little, you know, with what the police and what Kerry doing, I get real mad here. I tell you, I don't know if I was young there. I don't boast in, I don't know what that would become of me. And when I see that to my partner, JB from Grand 4, I hope he deal with them. We used to live at Fokole there on top of the hill. I know him good, Richie better. But on the other hand, you know what I mean? Me feeling me happy. And I know it's going to branch down to Dominica. And I want to maybe get a copy. Or maybe you can even go over and get it better than me. You see the Petro-Caribbean business, I just train away too much. You see the Petro-Caribbean business, something happening right in Antigua. I listening on radio. And Dominica might be involved because trying to help Venezuela and them around the embargo and sanction. I always used to hear Angelo talking about them ship that carrying Dominica flag, that button show. Well, right now, some subpoena, or what they call it, issued down in some Miami, Florida court with the leader of our neighbor here. And it's going to boil down to Dominica, because what I'm hearing, and that is very bad, what I'm hearing is that all them countries in the Caribbean down here that want to go up with Alba against America and them shit, While Vincent Henderson was calling for America to lift embargo, I want him to lift something now because the PM of Antigua right now, I know he's in some shit and it's going to branch down to Dominica, Mr. Linton. And I want to get a copy to send to you so you could even maybe read it to Dominicans. But I understand. I just get my notes off there a bit.
Okay.
All
right. Thank you for joining us. It's 2:11. This is Q95 Talk on the Block. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Linton. It is I again. I wanted to have a few questions that were a little troubling. During the protest, as they say, quote unquote, protest, at what point did the police make that comment or that statement of people should be removed or to cease in their actions or whatever? And how was that announcement made? Was it made loud enough to the people that were there to hear? And another question that I asked, all the people who were arrested are residents here. They're working, whether they're politicians or they're just common people, which most of them were the common people. Why is that the magistrate would put such an extreme amount of bail for those individuals, knowing the economy that we have here in Dominica? The type of bail of $35,000, $25,000 you would put on an individual on a protest. And they were not violent, first of all. They were not violent individuals that were there peacefully protesting. To put such an extreme amount of $35,000, $25,000 on them and the restrictions that you have on them, I think was very, very, very extreme. And why is it that the fact that the bail would be so high? Because in most of the countries, for something, and it wasn't violent, they were not a violent individual, would go on an R&R,
Yeah.
That now that the people who are there have to have other people sometimes come and put bonds for them to show up. Somebody has to put their house, somebody has to put, and if those individuals don't have that, now do they sit in jail like common criminals until June for the hearing? And I think that was extreme. And when they says you should really take a look at the writing on the wall to say, what is the purpose of the bail amount and conditions the way that they are? Because it gives you pause to go beyond what you actually see with the naked eye, because it doesn't make any sense. That most of those people should have a bench or, should have had a R&R put on them, and then they come back to court and then, go through the process. But to put that type of bail on individuals, retirees and elders and all of that, it's the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Overseas line, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you for taking my call. Mr. Linton, there's a knowledge going on here with this whole thing that happened with not protest, but the gathering, in terms of if it was really designed to happen. But I'm glad you on this afternoon, because I got a question for you on some digging I've been doing. Do you know when was, or can you tell us, confirm, when was the last election in Dominica? Which year was that?
There was an election in 2022.
In 2022. Do you remember earlier this year that the government of Dominica went back to Parliament to approve $13 million, I'm not sure if it's US or EC, $13 million to be able to incorporate United Airlines from New Jersey to Dominica? Is that correct? Was that $13 million for 3 years?
Yeah, for what I remember, it was about 11 million plus.
How about
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Correct?
Yeah.
So the next
It was what they call a minimum revenue guarantee. Yes.
Okay, so the next election is constitutionally due in Dominica in the next 3 years. So very convenient. This deal was for 3 years. So if 23 was the last election in Dominica is somewhere around 27, 28. So if the money was approved in 25, you have 3 years to that. That's going to give you 2027, 2028, which is the next election, right? Now, this is quite interesting because for order the airline to operate to come to Dominica, you need the guarantee, and I'm sure of that. They said that for them to be profitable, they need to have 67% of the airline capacity. Like it must, like 67% of the flight must be full in order for them to operate to be profitable. Which means it's a Boeing 747-700 series, which is an older airline, which airplane which was built in 80s or 90s, takes 129 persons. So which means that 84 seats must be filled in order for them to be operated into Dominica. What is quite interesting, while this all happening in the old law, that if you ask someone to register, or if you ask someone to register you go vote them, and then they ask for an ID, that was illegal. Today, with the bill passed in Parliament, any politician can go and ask people to register to get their photo ID, which is a passport. It could be they don't have a national ID. That's why national ID is important, that you must have a passport. Now, you can go and ask someone to get a passport. You could pay for the passport. Remember, you're not paying them to vote. You're paying them to make a passport. So this whole deal was designed, and this whole United Airlines flight was designed. So if you're looking at about $300 and something thousand a year, which is almost $30,000 a month, because 36 months is 3 years is 46 months, 12 months a year. So I just want people to open their eyes and look at this analogy, what I'm talking about, because these guys are carefully calculating things. So in my humble opinion, we were digging and doing the research. I believe this United Airlines thing was all part of that bill to be passed in Parliament. I could be wrong. But based on my observation and based on history and trend of these people are following, I think this was a build-up to that situation, that bill that was passed in Parliament. So people need to watch this thing and be aware of that. And this thing about this is a new plane. People need to do the research. That plane is about 30, 40 years old, because they were built in 1984, 1990, somewhere in that region. Finally, the other thing is I am standing in solidarity with the people of the Superior constituency who condemned the arrest of Johnson Boston and everyone else that was arrested for not a protest but a gathering. And I think it's about time people have to put politics aside. And I'm calling on the people of the Freedom Party who have been hesitant in voting otherwise for the DLP. The divorce is now, and they need to file the paperwork. And I think it's time for them to wake up, because if Johnson Boston was there, and Johnson Boston clearly heard on a PA system saying, begging with the people that gathered, please, we want to have a very peaceful gathering. Please, we're not here for violence, and calling all the other political leaders and everybody to work together. Why would you arrest that man or any other person that did not do any harm to property or individual? I think this is wrong, and I'm asking people with good sense who know better, who go to church, especially those who call themselves Christians, to stand up for what is right and condemn this thing that happened recently. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity as well. It's 2:18, and I repeat, the police crackdown on citizens who assembled in the vicinity of Parliament on the 19th of March 2025. The police actions against them are totally unjustified. They are pure wickedness and evil, as someone was indicating earlier, actions intended to break a resistance. You cannot justify it. It's not justifiable in a democratic society. And especially given the provisions of the Riot Act that they claim that they're charging these people under. It's archaic, the law, but if you read the provisions carefully, I do not know that an hour elapsed between the proclamation and they allowed an hour to elapse before they decide that people were riotously and tumultuously still assembled and therefore guilty of the offense of unlawful assembly, which attracts a penalty of 5 years in prison. Right? On the basis of that 5 years in prison, the magistracy is saying it's a serious charge, and therefore that's the basis on which they're justifying the bail sums, as the caller was questioning a while ago. All right. I want to say a few things this afternoon about the 19th and what happened on the 19th. There was an assembly of people of Dominica who were dissatisfied with the bills that were going before the parliament for passage under the broad heading of electoral reform. Those are the bills that were supposed to give effect to electoral reform in Dominica for free and fair elections. And a number of persons gathered because they feel that the bills did not go far enough, or in some cases were deficient. Those that were presented to the parliament in the middle of December of 2024. And I refer specifically to the Registration of Electors Act, the House of Assembly Elections Act, and the Electoral Commission Act. Bills for those acts, therefore. The Electoral Commission bill was new. We've never had it before, so this was a bill for a new act. And the other two bills were for acts to repeal the existing Registration of Electors Act, the existing House of Assembly Elections Act. And I speak now from the standpoint of the United Workers' Party, in which I am a member and in which I serve as president, only to indicate what the issues the party had with the legislation was, and which was communicated to the ruling party, the Prime Minister of Dominica, by letter dated the 14th of January, 2025. And in that letter, over the signature of the political leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, the party outlined the outstanding issues on the reform agenda insofar as the legislation that was going before Parliament is concerned. Two of the issues had to do with the Registration of Electors Bill, and those were the cleaning of the voters list and ID cards for voting. So 1, 2, related to the Registration of Electors Bill. Related to the House of Assembly Elections Bill, there was concerns over bribery and cheating to be dealt with, concerns over provisions against the abuse of incumbency to be dealt with. There was the question of access to all media, and significantly, campaign finance regulations to be included in that bill, and which in fact, in the draft of the bill prepared by the Dennis Byron Consultancy, there was campaign finance regulation in that bill. The government took it out, claiming that there was need for discussion at CARICOM level and so on and so on. All right. And then in terms of the Electoral Commission bill, there was the issue of which we referenced in that letter of the middle of January, the issue of the increase of the age for retirement of the chief elections officer. It was at 55. We supported it going up to 65. 7 areas: cleaning the list, ID cards for voting, bribery and treating, specific bribery provisions to do with the transportation of voters from overseas to vote in elections in Dominica, the abuse of state resources for campaigns of the ruling party, access to all media, campaign financing, and finally, the age of retirement for the chief elections officer. One controversy emerged over opposition members on the opposition, the 2 elected members and the senators on the opposition side voting for the Registration of Electors Bill. And remember, I indicated that as far as the United Workers' Party was concerned, that letter that we sent out over the signature of the political leader in the middle of January, focused on two issues for the registration of electors bill: voter ID cards and cleaning of the voters list. So, turns out that the members of the opposition voted for the registration of electors bill, and the members of the opposition include the deputy political leader of the United Workers' Party, Senator Delbert Paris. Senator Paris has been wrongly criticized for the vote, understandable in circumstances where people were outside of the parliament protesting the passage of bills which they felt did not go far enough for reforms. But it was not the only bill. Like I said, in terms of the United Workers' Party and what we put on the record in communication to the head of government asking for a meeting to discuss them, the House of Assembly elections bill had 4 matters that we wanted dealt with. The registration, the House of, no, not the House of Assembly, the Electoral Commission Bill, 1. The Registration of Electors Bill, 2. So let us look at the 2. In the Registration of Electors Bill, there is provision for ID cards. And what we were trying to get, finally, from the government was ID cards with biometrics, facial recognition, and fingerprint. They ended up agreeing to facial recognition biometric only. But everything else that we wanted, including unique ID number, registration number, polling district, address of the person, etc., facial recognition, that is provided for in the act that was passed. The bill that was passed, signed into law on the 19th. So let's talk about the cleaning of the voters list. And to say that the big problem we had with cleaning of the voters list has to do with this question of re-registration versus confirmation. Re-registration, we felt, would accomplish the task of cleaning the voters list, would facilitate accomplishing the task of, would make it much easier to clean the voters list, re-registration. Because then persons who are not in Dominica, who are not living in Dominica, and who cannot be in Dominica for 3 months prior to registration, re-registration, would not qualify, would not be eligible to vote. And then the persons who are dead would not surface to re-register, so to speak. So through that process, you would have a clean list of voters over time. Not that it wouldn't require any work from us, because, of course, through whatever, if it's a human error or what, or just negligence or incompetence, you would find still names of people who want to register. The people are re-registering, but there are people on, well, re-registration would mean that you start fresh. You scrap the list that was there before and you start fresh. And there was a lot of concern in consultation, in consultants, in the consultancy phase as to whether that was a good thing or not, because we have a system of continuous registration and so on. The consultant had advised that the better thing to do would be to import the list and then have a confirmation period, after which persons who didn't show up to confirm, their names would be taken off the list. Those who were dead would obviously not show up, their names would be taken off the list, and the list would be cleaned in that way. All right. Except that we have this concern over persons who are living overseas and are no longer qualified to be on the register of voters, because the voting in Dominica is for representation in the Parliament of Dominica, in the government of Dominica. And if you're not in a polling district in Dominica, why should you be why should you be helping with the process of electing a representative for that polling district if you are somewhere else in the world? So if you have been like that for a number of years under the previous act, you would be 5 years, you are supposed to be taken off the register. Now, in this new act, there's no disqualification if you've been living overseas for more than 5 years. So the intention there is for persons living overseas to be on the register of voters. And that is how the ruling party has sought to give effect to the promise that nobody will be disenfranchised. Once you are registered, then you will always remain a voter regardless of where you live overseas and for how long. So there's that. But interestingly, this law, I want to bear with me because this is very important. A number of people have concerns, and I want to try my best to help with those concerns. You can, for example, pay attention to this. Regarding the registration of electors bill that was passed. Right? Because I believe that in terms of registration to vote for representation in the Parliament of Dominica, some of the key provisions for registration in the new act seem to be based on the position of the ruling Dominica Labour Party that while there is a constitutional requirement of residency in Dominica to be registered to vote, there is no constitutional requirement of residency in Dominica to vote. Important distinction. They're claiming there is a constitutional requirement of residency in Dominica to be registered, but once you are registered, then there's no constitutional requirement of residency in Dominica for you to vote. So you could register because you're resident in Dominica, but soon after you register in Dominica, then you can go and live where you want to overseas, and you can be voting for the government of Dominica. Section 33(2) of the Constitution says that every Commonwealth citizen of the age of 18 years or upwards who possesses such qualifications relating to residence or domicile in Dominica, as Parliament may prescribe, shall, unless he is disqualified by Parliament from registration as a voter for the purpose of electing representatives, be entitled to be registered as such voter in accordance with the provisions of any law in that behalf, and no other person may be so registered. It goes on, Section 33(2), the Constitution, every person who is registered as aforesaid in any constituency shall, unless he is disqualified by Parliament from voting in that constituency in any election of representatives, be entitled to so vote in accordance with any law in the behalf, and no other person may so vote. Then we have the eligibility for qualification for registration in the Registration of Electors Act at Section 7. This is where it provides for being a citizen of Dominica or a Commonwealth citizen who has resided in Dominica for a period of not less than 12 months immediately before the qualifying date, and 18 years and over as requirements to vote, to be registered to vote, and has resided in that polling district for a continuous period of at least 3 months immediately preceding the qualifying date, except that in the case of a person who has attained the age of 18 years within the period of 3 months immediately preceding the date of the person's registration, no such qualification shall be required. Section 7.4 says, when elector for a polling district has ceased to reside in that polling district, the elector shall not, on that account, cease to be qualified to be registered as an elector for that polling district until he or she has become registered as an elector for another polling district. And I say that to say the law provides for transfers from one polling district to the other. So if you cease to be resident in one polling district, you move to another part of Dominica, then the law provides for transfer to that new polling district where you're resident. But if you move out of a polling district in Dominica to an address in somewhere else in the world, in which polling district should you be registered or should you be transferred to for voting? Because if you're in Dominica, you move from one polling district where you're voting to the other where you were registered to the other where you are now resident and have been recently registered, then you vote there. But if you're being transferred out of a polling district in Dominica, how can you be transferred out of a polling district in Dominica to somewhere else in the world where there's no polling district? The Constitution is the supreme law of Dominica, and any law that is inconsistent with the Constitution to the extent of its inconsistency shall be declared void. So it is the Constitution that sets up this thing about voting registered to vote in a polling district. And the laws provide for transfers from one polling district to the next because it's still residents in Dominica. All the polling districts are in Dominica and you're resident in Dominica. When you're not resident in Dominica, then you're not in any polling district in Dominica. And therefore, some disqualification should apply. Now, the Registration of Electors Act provides for disqualification for registration at Section 8. It said a person is disqualified from being registered as an elector and shall not be so registered if he or she is undergoing a sentence or imprisonment in Dominica exceeding 12 months, B, is under sentence of death imposed by a court in any part of the Commonwealth other than Dominica, or under sentence of imprisonment by whatever name called exceeding 12 months imposed by such court, or under the sentence substituted for such sentence by competent authority and has not suffered the punishment imposed or received a pardon thereof, or C, is under any other written law disqualified for registration as an elector. Now, as I said just now, the previous act disqualified persons who were absent from Dominica for more than 5 years and required their names to be removed from the register of voters. With that particular provision, you had a lot of incompetence in managing the register of voters, and that led to a bloated voters list with thousands of persons ordinarily resident overseas who were not eligible to vote in Dominica. And we all know the ruling party manipulated this very unfortunate situation and took advantage of the number of people that were available overseas to be bribed with payment of their transportation expenses and spending money to come home to vote on the implied and or the express condition that they would be voting for the ruling party. Bribery straight and plain. And bribery of overseas voters who are not in any polling district in Dominica and therefore cannot be represented in that polling district by anybody that they vote for in the parliament. In this new act, the ruling party seems to have moved to protect this pool of overseas voters by removing the 5-year disqualification and thereby providing for registered voters to remain on the voters list for life, regardless of whether or not they are ordinarily resident in Dominica. That is the plan. That was the plan. So how was it executed? We now have to go into the legislation itself to see whether and how effectively they accomplished what they intended to accomplish, which has to do with the so-called franchise, not disenfranchising anybody from
The
voting.
government is determined that no citizen will be disenfranchised or denied the opportunity to participate in the electoral process of Dominica. We will safeguard the rights of all our citizens because voting is a fundamental right of citizenship. This government is not going to go to Parliament and pass laws to disenfranchise Dominicans living overseas to vote. This government is not going to go to Parliament and pass laws to disenfranchise Dominicans living overseas to vote. It is wrong. This government is not going to go to Parliament and pass laws to disenfranchise Dominicans living overseas to vote. It is wrong. It is wrong.
So the Prime Minister is protecting the franchise of Dominicans living overseas to vote, regardless of how long they've been living overseas and whether or not they are resident in any polling district in the country. Remember I told you just now that we have okay, the constitutional provisions. We went through the constitutional provisions at 33.2. Right? They're about qualifications relating to residence or domicile in Dominica, as Parliament may prescribe, unless the person is disqualified by Parliament from registration as a voter for the purpose of electing representatives, be entitled to be registered as such voter in accordance with the provisions of any law in that behalf, and no other person may be so registered. Okay. The Prime Minister is now saying, regardless of how long you live overseas, your name will be on the register of voters to vote for representatives in polling districts where you no longer reside and therefore cannot be represented. So we did not consider that the names of persons who have been overseas for significant lengths of time should be on the voters list, and therefore there must be a provision for the name to be removed. They're not ordinarily resident in Dominica. What the Prime Minister has promised is that the rights of those persons to continue to vote for life will be protected.
Wrong, and we know those who are promoting it, they know that it is wrong. Many Dominicans living abroad maintain deep connections to their homeland.
All right, so let's just go back over this and let you what the Prime Minister is saying.
The government is determined.
That
no citizen
will
be disenfranchised or denied the opportunity to participate in the electoral process of Dominica. We will safeguard the rights of all our citizens because voting is a fundamental right of citizenship.
All right. Voting is a fundamental right of citizenship. Voting is also a fundamental right to be exercised by residents of Dominica, according to the Constitution, persons who reside in Dominica. It's not a vote for human rights around the world. It is not a vote that allows you, it's not a right to vote for whatever you want. It's a right to vote for representation in the Parliament of Dominica. It is called the House of Assembly elections to the House of Assembly. That's what the act is all about. Good. He's saying it's a fundamental right of citizenship. Yeah. It's also, you're a citizen, but yeah, if you're not 18, then you cannot vote. And if you're not resident in a particular polling district of Dominica, you can't be entered on the voters register, notwithstanding what Mr. Skerritt is calling this fundamental right of citizenship. All right. So now, the question has to be asked: how did so to the extent that that was impacting the clean voters list? How is it going to be dealt with? Are there provisions in the new Registration of Electors Act for cleaning the voters list? And are those provisions better than what was there before? Do they represent an improvement on the status quo? And the answer to that is yes. Now, in the new act, there are provisions which appear to provide for the removal from the register of voters the names of persons who have, quote, become disqualified for registration as an elector under this act. And I suspect this is going to cause some problems because the act decides and the Constitution decides what qualifies you. The converse of that should represent a disqualification, but that disqualification is not spelled out in the disqualifications at 8 of the Act. Nonetheless, residency in Dominica is a qualification to register to vote in Section 7 of the Registration of Electors Act, but non-residence in Dominica is not a disqualification to be on the register of voters as per Section 8 of the Registration of Electors Act. So we're getting into interpretations now because we have Section 12B2, which states a person who is registered under this part is entitled to have his or her name remain on the register unless and until it is deleted from the register pursuant to a provision of this act because the person has become disqualified for registration as an elector under this act. And the question you ask yourself, if the Constitution and this Registration of Electors Act provides for residence as a qualification, isn't non-residence a disqualification? Or is there something special about election law that allows the disqualification to be only that which stands, but not the converse, not the opposite of the qualification? So that if you are no longer a citizen, once you have registered, then if you have registered and you're no longer a citizen, you're registered, you're a citizen, but then you revoke your citizenship, are you still qualified to be on the register of voters if it's a fundamental right of citizenship? Then you have, so note the phrase, has become disqualified for registration as an elector on this act. Registration of Electors Act 13.3b speaks of the chief registering officer shall revise the register of electors adopted under Section 1, subject to Section 7, by removing therefrom the name of any person referred to in subsection 4. And subsection 4 refers to a person who, subsection 3b refers, is a person whose name appears on the register adopted under Section 1 and who has become disqualified for registration under this act or under any other written law imposing disqualification for registration as an elector. And finally, there is Section 15.3b, where the preliminary register shall not include the names of persons who, in the opinion of the chief registering officer, has become disqualified for registration as an elector under this act or under any written law imposing disqualification for registration as an elector. Now, there's a very interesting section in this new Registration of Electors Act, which was not there before, and which indicates a different level of seriousness now from the standpoint of the law for doing the things that need to be done and doing the things that need to be done correctly and in the public interest. Section 38 provides that a person, and I'm quoting here now, that, quote, a person who does not have the requisite qualifications for inclusion on the register of electors and who willfully makes a claim to be included in the register of electors commits an offense. Again, a person who does not have the requisite qualifications for inclusion in the register of electors and who willfully makes a claim to be included in the register of electors commits an offense. So here we are now in the confirmation period. And persons are being asked to make a claim to be included on the register of electors because the lower list is scrapped. The lower list is there, but we have to make a claim now for us to be included. And in making the claim, we give false statements about qualifications to say we have the qualification, but we don't. And one of the qualifications clearly is residence. If we're not resident in Dominica, we do not qualify. This Section 38 offense is warning people who do not have the residence qualification and who are going to make a claim to be included on the register of electors. They're being warned by this section that they'll be committing an offense. And the penalty for the offense is $5,000 or 6 months in jail, or both $5,000 and 6 months in jail, both fine and confinement. So persons who are not ordinarily resident overseas, persons who are ordinarily resident overseas, who do not now have the requisite residence qualification for inclusion in the register of electors and who seek to be confirmed on the register of voters will be committing an offense. That's what Section 38 says. And the suggestion there from the wording of Section 38, you can conclude that it is unconstitutional and it is contrary to the provisions of this act, notwithstanding the provisions for confirmation at Part 5 of the Registration of Electors Act. It is to confirm. It is unconstitutional and contrary to provision of this act to confirm persons on the register of voters who have become disqualified for registration or are no longer qualified for registration. Now, everybody has been asking the question, why did Roosevelt Skerritt not attend the meeting of the Parliament on March the 19th, 2025? Why did he not attend? Well, all three bills, the Registration of Electors Bill, the House of Assembly Elections Bill, and the Electoral Commission Bill, was standing in the name of Roosevelt Skerritt, the Prime Minister, on the order paper for the Parliament on the 19th. Yet, Mr. Skerritt decided to boycott the Parliament. Nobody's talking about that. He boycotted the Parliament. And interestingly, the question was asked to him by this Grenadian journalist, Calistra Ferrer.
Were you at that session?
I wasn't there. I followed intently. I saw everybody happening in Parliament. It's carried live, so I could follow.
Were you at that session?
I wasn't there. I followed intently. I saw everybody happening in Parliament. It's carried live, so I could follow.
He was not in the Parliament, but it is carried live, and he could follow. And he followed everything. If you were following everything in the Parliament, if you saw everything that happened in the Parliament, where were you? And why were you not in the Parliament? Because you were required to be in the Parliament based on the other paper. The bills are in your name. But you're telling the people of Dominica, I didn't come to Parliament to debate the bills. or to vote for them. I stayed away from Parliament. I boycotted Parliament because I was in a location where Parliament was carried live, and so I was able to follow everything. I don't know whether anybody out there has a problem with this, but I have a serious problem with it. And there has to be a reason why, given the significance of electoral reform to Dominica. Bills for reform standing in your name on the other paper, and you boycott the Parliament. You stay away. But not because you were busy doing something else. You just stayed away. Because what he's telling you now, I stayed away, not because I had anything else to do. What I had to do was to follow the Parliament and everything that happened in the Parliament from somewhere else, from outside of the Parliament. Why did Roosevelt Skerrit boycott the sitting of the Parliament on the 19th of March? Well, it seems to me that if you're going to beat your chest and promise to protect the franchise of Dominicans living overseas to vote in elections for life in Dominica, notwithstanding that they're not in any polling district in Dominica for where they can be voting representation to Parliament. If you're going to protect that right for life as you have sworn, then that's what you're going to do. But if the legislation that you're going to vote for in some way puts those very people at risk of being jailed or paying fines, being fined and confined for seeking to put themselves on the register of voters, then I'm saying that you will be uncomfortable with that. You will not want to vote for that. So you know you have the majority, you will send other people to vote for it, but you yourself will not be going to vote for it. So right now, nobody can say that Roosevelt Skerrit voted for any legislation that puts the very same people whose franchise he swore and promised to protect, putting those people at risk of committing an offense that could land them in jail for 6 months, or have them pay a fine of $5,000, or pay such fine and endure such prison term. Here is the provision at Section 38. Again, listen carefully, people. Roosevelt Skerrit, the Registration of Electors Act, Section 38, provides that a person who does not have the requisite qualifications for inclusion in the register of electors and who willfully makes a claim to be included in the register of electors commits an offense. The offense is punishable by a $5,000 fine, 6 months in jail, or such fine and prison term, fine and confine. And Roosevelt Skerrit knows this. He knows of the provisions, the numerous provisions in the bill through which the list can be cleaned with removal of names of persons who no longer qualify to be on the register for reasons of residency, death, etc. And he therefore stayed away. He let other people vote for the bill, but not him. Other people on his team voted for it. We got some opposition members who voted for it as well, but not Roosevelt Skerrit, because Roosevelt Skerrit is the one who said, beat his chest and said, I am going to protect your right to vote in Dominica for life. And having made that promise, he couldn't come to Parliament to vote for the law that is going to do that, because that very law at Section 38, puts the same people, same Dominican brothers and sisters living overseas, who will be seeking to get confirmed on the register at risk of committing an offense. The offense of not having the requisite qualifications for inclusion on the register of voters, but makes a claim to be included on the register of voters. That's an offense. $5,000 or 6 months in jail, or both $5,000 and 6 months in jail. There are some other interesting provisions in this bill where it concerns the responsibility of registering officers and assistant registering officers and so on, and the jobs that they have to do. This new law strengthens or strengthens the provisions for ensuring that these registering officers, these state actors, do what the law requires them to do. Okay? 45.1 says a registering officer or an assistant registering officer who willfully and without reasonable excuse knowingly enters in the register of electors or any list the name of a person who does not qualify, who is not qualified or entitled to be on the register as an elector under this act, commits an offense. Then a registering officer or assistant registering officer convicted of an offense on the subsection 1, which we just read, shall, in addition to any penalty specified in that subsection, and the penalty is there of $5,000 fine and 6 months in jail, or both fine and confine. They're saying here, a registering officer, assistant registering officer convicted for an offense under subsection 1 shall, in addition to any penalty specified in that subsection, forfeit the right to payment for services provided as a registering officer or assistant registering officer, as the case may be, and shall be incapable during a period of 7 years from the date of conviction, A, of being qualified as an elector or of voting at any election, or of being elected a member of the House of Assembly or any local government body. So it's not just the fine and confine. If you're a registering officer and you're playing around with your responsibilities and you're knowingly, for example, entering on the register of electors that is supposed to be clean, you're entering on the register of electors or any list the name of a person who is not qualified or entitled to be registered as an elector under this act, you can be fined and confined, but also be denied voting in elections or being elected as a member of the House of Assembly or any local government body for a period of 7 years. Okay? Then 46 says, a person not being a registering officer or assistant registering officer exercising functions under this act. This now comes to the chief elections officer, right? Any list and who does any unlawful or unauthorized act in relation to the register of electors, any list or the registration record of any person commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding 10 now. See, the amount going up from 5 because we're dealing with bigger fish now. $10,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 9 months, or to both such fine and imprisonment. Now, the rule of law is the rule of law. This law is now passed, and we have a responsibility to ensure that the lawful, the behavior of the officers, those responsible for the management of the electoral list and so on, the voters register, do their work properly and do it well according to law. And if it is done according to law, we will have a clean list. And if we do our work as persons with the responsibility of raising objections to names that we know ought not to be on the list for whatever reason, we do that within the law, and we will ensure a clean voters list. It is a little more difficult than it would have been if we had gotten a complete re-registration of voters. But it is not an impossible task. And while it is more difficult because the Labour Party was hoping that they would not have re-registration, and in confirmation, using the confirmation process, then they could frustrate the clean up the list and especially keep all these names of persons from the outside on the list so that they could have a big pool to bribe and bring home to vote and marginal constituencies and win the elections and so on. Mr. Skerritt was clear that it is not everywhere that they are bringing people to vote. He was clear that they only bring people in certain constituencies. They don't go in Portsmouth or Vickers or Granby and so on. They bring persons in other constituencies and they pay for them to come to vote in the marginal constituencies, in the competitive constituencies, and have the results decide in their favor. He has said that on the record now in that interview with the Grenadian journalist. So that's what I see. Mr. Skerritt did not come to Parliament. He boycotted Parliament because of his discomforts with the legislation insofar as it concerns the cleansing of the voters list and the keeping the prospect of jail time and fines for persons in the diaspora whose franchise he has promised to protect or sworn to protect, who now are at risk of serious penalties if they attempt to get entered onto the voters' register, according to Section 38 of the Registration of Electors Act. We take a break forward from our sponsors. We'll come back in just a moment.
Rice and Company. Rice and Company. The only company I know with rice was cooking butter and back and neck. Now with the last one is short. I said Bryce. In the old plus level where you have a roofing material and seamless guttering. Yes. 24 gauge governors, all colors. Ever open nipple gas peel agent. They program the computer to give you the exact size you want. And the seamless guttering aluminum that can better withstand the elements you have in an easy way. So no leaking after a while. And so much more. Rice and Company, the at by 8 bank close to the old mill at Enfield. Telephone 617-2468.
Cause I'm on my way. KFC delivery is here. Just place your order at www.kfcdominica.com, Facebook or WhatsApp at 614-2633 and your order will be delivered to you. KFC, it's good. Cause I'm on my way.
Dominica Q95 Radio is open for your business in collaboration with the National Development Foundation of Dominica. Get ready to join Q95 Radio and NDFD for the start of Small Business Buzz, a live radio program bringing empowerment to small business ideas and entrepreneurs across Dominica every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m., offering a unique national platform for small, medium, and growing business enterprises. Together, we'll aspire to connect, advertise, learn, collaborate, and witness small business enterprises thrive and succeed in the fertile broadcasting soul of Q95 alongside the NDFD. Join us on our journey every Tuesdays and Thursdays from 4 to 5 p.m. One unbroken, exciting hour of free Q95 Radio small business promotion as together we explore all the challenges, the setbacks, the setups, the comebacks, the stories, the history, the startups, the breakthroughs, the financing, the sweat, the sleepless nights, the breakthroughs, the triumphs, the business plans, the overall success to pursuing your small business dream come true in the Commonwealth of Dominica. Join veteran broadcaster Franklin Peter Moses and highly skilled and qualified small business development officer at the NDFD, Donald Bocasio of the National Development Foundation of Dominica, as together we shed the national spotlight on you and your small business live on radio. Small Business Buzz, bringing empowerment to the ideas and dreams that help influence and propel the engine of growth and small business achievements across Dominica. Small Business Buzz, we're starting this March 25th. Don't miss it. Small Business Buzz. We're minding your business.
Somebody who Creole, baby, Creole. Mouvement Créole à Secure. Tout le monde créole pour attention. Comité pour études créole Dominique. Et puis Radio QFM que présenté. Mouvement Créole. Tous les mardis soirs entre 6 après-midi. Information, blagues, interviews, l'histoire, problème, discussion, reportage, apprendre à parler et puis écrit créole. Lien avec ton peuple créole. Bon musique créole. Mouvement Créole. À nous faire un rendez-vous, messieurs, mesdames, tous les mardis soirs. QFM qui est frappé avec bon parole créole. Sans ça participer, qui est nous rapidement Timamaina. Mouvement créole à seconde station QFM. Watchez avec nous tous les mardis soirs 6h pour Mouvement créole. Matchez ça. Auto Trade introduces our newest line of lubricants, Valvoline, America's first branded motor oil. Valvoline has been formulating and improving motor oil longer than any other brand. From the world's first racing oil to the world's first synthetic blend, Valvoline has been trusted in engines around the world for over 150 years. Make the switch today. Choose Valvoline, the original motor oil. At Auto Trade, we only recommend the best in quality because at Auto Trade, it's more than a vehicle. It's a relationship. Valvoline Lubricants, now distributed by Auto Trade.
You must see your pal rep. Your person want to visit you. You have a drain behind the house that causing problems. You have a drain. You have a house causing problems in the polling district. Yeah. Your road needs fixing. We have to wet the road in Seneco because there's so much dust when it's dry. So you have a voter in New York when it's dry. So you have a voter in New York, and he'll call and tell you that there are a lot of potholes on the streets of Manhattan and you need to fix it for him. So you have a voter in New York, and he'll call and tell you that there are a lot of potholes on the streets of Manhattan and you need to fix it for him. So you have a voter in New York, and he'll call and tell you that there are a lot of potholes on the streets of Manhattan and you need to fix it for him. Yeah, you cannot call you cannot call the file rep you vote for in Seneco or in St. Joseph or somewhere around Dominica and tell him where you living in Manhattan, potholes in the road. He, the pal rep in Dominica, must come and fix it for you. You have to see a pal rep, yes, but he can't do nothing for you where you're up there. But you're voting for him in Dominica, and Mr. Scarrett is saying, well, I'm going to protect your right to continue to vote where for people who can have no impact in terms of representation where you are, because in the Parliament of Dominica. This is too serious. It is too serious. Indeed, it's too serious. Okay. All right. Too serious for us to trivialize the discussions, but here's what he's promising. Mm-hmm. The government is determined that no citizen will be disenfranchised or denied the opportunity to participate in the electoral process of Dominica. We will safeguard the rights of all our citizens because voting is a fundamental right of citizenship. Yeah, voting is a fundamental right of citizenship, but you cannot be voting in Dominica for your circumstances up in Manhattan or in France or in England. There's no polling district of Dominica up there. And it is representation for polling district you're voting for. That is the right. And now, Mr. Scarrett found himself in a tie because the legislation that was in his name in Parliament did not do a very effective job of protecting those rights. And the names of those persons can still be removed from the register if people do their work correctly. And I'm urging them to do the work correctly because there is jail time and there are fines involved in
for incompetence or non-performance of the jobs that you have accepted to do for the people of Dominica and the electoral system. The provisions there are stronger than they were in the previous law in terms of getting the work for cleaning the voters list done in Dominica. I'm satisfied with that. Should there have been a demonstration? Of course, it was necessary to have a demonstration, because there's still a lot of things, even though the provisions for cleaning the list are better than they were before, there's still a lot of things in the other pieces of legislation that we have not gotten. Importantly, campaign finance regulation, completely absent. No provisions to stop the government abuse of resources for its campaigning. None of that. No provisions for access to all media. That's what we were advocating. And no provisions clarifying the situation regarding bribery of overseas voters to come and vote for the ruling party in Dominica, using all those millions and millions of dollars. So I can understand Mr. Skerritt's discomfort. And so I understand why he boycotted the parliament, stayed away. But let's put that aside now, because the law, that particular law, the Registration of Electors Act, that's the law of the land now. And so a confirmation period is opening up after proclamation by the Electoral Commission. And significantly, Dominicans resident here, all of them, must confirm their names on the register of voters, of electors. So get busy doing that. Political parties are going to do their best to facilitate the process, and I understand the Labour Party is up and running in that regard. The United Workers' Party will be up and running, or is already doing work in that regard, because it's important. You only vote if you're on the voters register. So now, during the next 12 months, as soon as possible, you don't have to wait for month 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. As soon as possible, you get to the registering officer, the assistant registering officer, or the Electoral Commission. Get yourself confirmed on the register of voters. If you're not yet registered, get registered to vote. That's the only way you're going to have an impact with your vote, and your vote is your voice. Now, I am hearing a lot of talk about an election, that elections are coming, that things the Labour Party is doing and the way Mr. Skerritt is talking, seems he's going to call an election very soon. Well, I don't know what that means. All I can say is an election within the confirmation period under this new law would be another savage provocation of the people of Dominica. Because in the confirmation period, which extends up to 15 months, people can decide, well, when they're going to get registered. And every month, the list of voters is revised and published. And so there'll be a lot of opportunities for people to object to names that they see appearing because the person is maybe still dead. The person is dead. So why is their name on the register? Or the person is living overseas. Why is their name on the register? Take it out, and the registering officers are better empowered to do that now under this new law than they were under the previous law. But when Mr. Skerritt decides that within the confirmation period, he's going to have an election, it means that the election will be conducted on the same old list. Because remember, before the 15 months have elapsed, the Electoral Commission has no authority at all to remove any names from the register. It's only after the confirmation period is over that you can determine that people have not confirmed, and therefore their names will be taken off the register. That's after 15 months. So anytime within the 15-month period, all you will have on the list is names that were there already that have confirmed, and new people who are being registered for the first time. And of course, hopefully, the dead people will be taken off the list. So this will be another savage provocation of the people, notwithstanding the fact that they say you have reforms and so on. And the people have to be looking out for that. What is going to be the response to the people of Dominica to Mr. Skerrit calling an election within the confirmation period of 15 months? What will be the response to that? We're just wondering. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Linton.
Good afternoon, sir.
I have not drunk anything alcoholic for the last 3 or so weeks, and I am not taking any medication that would make my hearing not what I'm really hearing you reading today.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to figure out now, Mr. Linton, why we had all that thing about going around the country, doing people meetings. Because what I'm hearing there is basically the people who are supposed to be registering people. These people have been thrown under the bus. You know?
No. How you mean thrown under the bus?
Well, it is saying that if you register people who are not supposed to be registered, then you will you go to jail for 6 months or you will pay 5,000 or whatever.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct.
You understand me?
Yeah.
And I'm basically hearing that a re-registration process and everything like that. Why not just cleaning up the list and present what happened Wednesday or 2 ago? You know, that law, that what is happening there or what is on the law there could have presented everything. You know, I mean, everything is clear now that there isn't any list that people will be able to come down because people are not going to come down to re-register. If you can call the registering officer and say I want to reconfirm my thing.
No, well, they have to add in. They can't do it by phone call. The law says you have to show up in Dominica.
Right. So why not just re-register?
Re-register. Yes.
So he just didn't want people to figure UWP or the opposition rather than him. People who don't comfortable government and they won. Huh?
Yeah.
He didn't want them to think that. He didn't want them to think that he lost. But that's what I'm saying.
Something like that. Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to
all right. Thank you. God bless. Yeah. This is good afternoon. The time has moved on to 3:23. I told you, depending on the levels of interest, we'll do a little overtime this afternoon. I'm not sure how much longer we'll go. Depends on your phone calls. Good afternoon.
It's me again, Mr. Linton. Blessings to you, sir.
Blessings, bro.
Look at the level of inadequacies and deficiencies in the whole process. The Electoral Commission were just gotten rid of. They were nullified and neutralized, realizing 3 of them selling passports. And Wayne and Hillary, all of a sudden, I think they disappeared from the scene, if I may say that, from my point of view. And you may not have heard me with Matt. I was asking what happened to a man, the bill, 3 of them in his name. He flown out 2 days or 1 day prior. He was thrown back in. He fly out. He even caught the flu. I was telling Matt that, the fly, flown, flu.
Fly, flown, flu?
Fly, flown, flu.
Yes, fly, flown, flu. Okay. All right.
In and out, have people indecisive and confused. What the hell is happening if it's in your name? But you articulating, my brother, the reasons he may have had or take into consideration based on advice of whoever or by whoever that he will be held accountable if anybody has to pay for the illegalities you're describing. Isn't that what you're saying, sir?
Yes. But you see, listen to me. On this matter of Skerrit attending and Skerrit boycotting the parliament, remember the night before he was in St. Martin, he was fine enough to be in St. Martin.
Yeah.
He returned to Dominica the following morning. In time.
And the same day he maybe when he fly out, he got the flu. I am just saying, Mr. Linton, even with the whole the whole process is illegal. There was not an opposite. They talk about having to do with the whole process. How could it be done in the absence of an opposition leader in parliament? Is it all that should be taken into consideration as well, Mr. Linton?
I guess in a way, but it's been a while since they have had no opposition leader. And
No, so I am just saying that the whole situation seems to be so illegal and criminal, and the brother had to find a way to have Vince and the other idiots in parliament, the people that say they are very mean and who gonna take cocaine when they ask who still buy Joe leads and all kind of things. So could he just say, you know something, all you idiots take over parliament. So you see Pontius Pilate, when they bring Christ to him, he say, if I no fault with the man, so he washes his hands. Do whatever you want in parliament because I know I was not in it. And that is why it is baffling, quite perplexing or puzzling in a simpler word, Mr. Linton. Why didn't Delbert Paris just say, you know something, boss? I debated it. I showed the reasons why I'm not for it. I see the things, yes, I supported. But guess what? You know something? I'm not going to soil my hands because if I vote for or against, I cannot do nothing. I'm in 20, how much? 19 or something, Mr. Linton? Against what?
Yeah,
3? 19 against 3?
In the mathematics of the situation, the votes of the opposition would not have prevented the bill from passing. That's
what I'm saying. Just abstain.
Yeah.
Keep the man, let the man stay in his dirtiness, in all of them in their field, in the venomous behavior, rather than going and make people watch you like a traitor, my brother. Thank you, sir.
All right. God bless. And thank you very much, Dominica, for joining us. That's all the time we have this afternoon. That's all the time we'll allow ourselves because there was no flow hour this afternoon. And so we took the opportunity to share with you some more. I still see the phone lines going, so we'll take a couple more phone calls. Good afternoon.
Yes, Mr. Linton. A question. The acting new deputy chief commissioner, is it JJ, famous JJ? As well.
Advance, yes, Advance. What's his name? The one who said Advance.
Advance.
He's the new acting.
Deputy.
He's the deputy. He's the deputy to Corbett, who is the acting commissioner. Good afternoon.
Mr. Linton.
Good afternoon.
How are you, my dear?
I'm good. Nice to hear you. It was good to see you.
Nice to hear you to my family. Mr. Linton, I would like to say something. Everybody said we have about 70,000 people. 70,000 people. Mr. Linton, not today we're saying that. And I believe it is time that we should get a real registration list that we know we say is 40,000, 50,000, or 30,000. I don't believe Dominica have no 70,000. And that is getting to me. Because that's giving leeway to all kinds of things. I think if we're doing something good, do everything and let us fight. Because we have enough time. Mr. Skelton have enough time to fight before he votes, before he fights for him to be king again. So I don't understand anything. I really want to know how many people that are really in Dominica. And I think it is time that if you're in Marigot, your name in Marigot. You're in Roseau, your name in Roseau. Do a real registration and let us know what is going on. This nonsense needs to stop. Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Have a good afternoon yourself, and thank you very, very much for joining us. No, sorry about that. Somebody was there, and the person changed his or her mind. All right. Where do we? Okay. So that's all the time we have this afternoon, folks. I'm happy you could join us. I'm happy we were here to have this conversation. Matt Peltier is back in the house tomorrow. He's been taking care of some very important family matters this afternoon, dealing with having to do with some very lovely lady. Good afternoon, lovely lady. How are you? Welcome home. God bless you. God bless you all the time. All right. I'll leave you with the dice. Nice. Yes. Speak now. Speak now. God bless you, Dominica.
Good night, my people of the air. Time to overturn the carpet. We've been dying of what baby. Now we are forced to speak. The Chinese are new masters. We have shown his lost his matters. We rebel silent in the darkness, yeah. Just hoping for the best. But things are changing much too quick. And I'm there dying to see. So sing out, my brothers. Time to stand up and speak. Oh. Speak before the age becomes the next tapestry. Speak out, my sisters, if like me you're disturbed by this. Whoa, speak now or forever. Old days, yeah. Speak now or forever. Old days. Our government, they govern. It's so sad that they are. We accept corruption.